Hi, this is Chris Coppernall of Soul to Soul, talking with Jaci Velasquez about life, music, faith, marriage, all of the above. Jaci, it's so great to talk with you today.
Thank
it really
you.
is. You've had so much going on in your life. It's been 10 years you've celebrated in Christian music. You've gotten married in the last year. So much has been happening in your life. In fact, you're working on a brand new album. Can you just catch us up a little bit of what's been going on lately?
Well, everything's been going on between working on a new record, working on an EP, and then, getting married, and then a couple months later, deciding to start a family, and then getting pregnant, and then, all of this. It's been, took a lot of turns to get to this point, but I'm the happiest girl in the world.
Well, since your career just launched in 1996, it has been one platinum record, gold record, successful tour. You've done so much. It must seem like life has just always been busy. There's been great things going on all the time. Do you feel like sometimes it's good to just take a step back and reflect upon things and plan the next chapter?
Well, sometimes you do have to step back and kind of, for me, the last couple of years, I took a sabbatical, really, and just wanted to sit back and really reflect on everything that God was trying to teach me and everything that I'd been through, from the very beginning, from 96 and up until now. There had been so many things that had happened, so many great things, so many tough things. And for me, I had to sit back and take some time and kind of move away and really reflect on what was going on in my life.
I heard that you had moved to London for a while, first to record one of your projects, but then you went back just to have a place to, get away from the music industry that just really can be all-consuming for a Christian artist. What was it like living in London?
Living in England was, I'll be honest, I never expected to come back to America. I sold my house, I sold my furniture, I sold everything down to my candlesticks. Everything was gone. I was just trying to get rid of everything so I could leave. And in some ways it was running away from a lot, but it was also wanting to start over, trying to figure out, who I was outside of music, outside of my parents or my brothers and sisters, outside of family. I just wanted to experience something completely on my own that had nothing to do with anybody else. So I went over to England, and I had a great time over there. I went to school. I went to school for a semester, and it was an amazing experience. See, I stopped going to school back in fourth grade. Fourth grade was my last year in school, and I never went back. No junior high, no high school, no college. I graduated high school, but it was through homeschooling that I graduated, which is kind of lame, so you never get to do any of the fun stuff that all the high school students get to do.
Right, you didn't feel like you had that experience of having classmates and all the activities.
Right. Yeah. So I got the opportunity to. Of course, this time, my school was full of barristers and lawyers, and so we really had absolutely nothing in common, but it was a great experience because you're kind of learning social skills, some social skills I never developed because I was always around adults as a child.
Well, it sounds like you went to London just for some breathing room.
Yes.
You've been in music so long, all through your teens, really. You must have never had a real sense of, well, who am I when I'm not on a stage performing or in a recording studio recording? Who am I apart from my identity as a Christian artist?
No, and that's exactly what it was. I really did question who I was apart from, because music was who I was. And when things started kind of falling apart for me personally, and with the divorce, with what was going on in my personal life, I really had nothing left. Because in a way, when my marriage fell apart, my first marriage, when it fell apart, nobody wanted to have anything to do with me. My whole career, my whole life had been based upon this this world of Christian music that did not smile upon, you know, our artists, the people that we put up on pedestals, going through divorce and struggling with personal lives, because you're supposed to have it all figured out and have it together, which unfortunately we don't. So that was really hard for me, because the very people that I kind of put all my trust in, not really wanting to know me for a while.
They weren't as comfortable with this part of your life, and no one plans for a divorce. No one wants to go through that. Sometimes things happen that we just feel are beyond our control.
Right.
I want to ask you about some of the healing, because I know that you've experienced a lot of that. You had met with someone that you'd spent time counseling and working through some of these things.
Some counselors, some great pastors, actually.
Really?
Wonderful people, and they're still friends.
Did you find, sometimes we think there's something on the surface that we need to deal with, but we find we go a little deeper, there's things below the surface, how we feel about ourselves, relationships with our relations, our family.
Yes.
What were some of the things that you felt you got the most healing through the counseling?
Well, you know, I think that a lot of my issues did stem from my missing my father, because I have a great dad. He's awesome, and I love him, and he's very soft, and he's very gentle. He's a very kind man. But when I was a little girl, from the time I was a little girl, my dad traveled a lot, so it was very hard. I had daddy issues, and I think that anybody that knows anything about therapy, if you have father issues, typically women try to fix those issues through marriage, you know, through a man in their lives. And for me, that's partially probably what I was doing, because I just missed the presence of a father figure in my life. And I, you know, you learn so much about yourself going through counseling and therapy and pastoral work, like, you know, sitting with pastors. You learn a lot about, you know, a lot of stuff you didn't want to know, actually.
Well, in listening to your story, it sounds like for someone who traveled so much through your teenage years and into your 20s, you just had never taken the time that for a lot of us just happens.
Right.
You know, in whatever our normal life is, there's lots of downtime to reflect and process. But for you, it was go, 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 from the recording studio to the touring road, and you just never had the time to go back and think about these things. So it must have been a remarkable season for you to have the counseling with pastors.
It was amazing.
And wise friends that could help walk you through this. How did it change your view of God's love for you? Did the counseling have an impact there?
You know, it did. You know, understanding God's love for us was huge. And for me, I'm a pastor's kid. So I've always known about God's love, and I've always, you know, had an understanding of God's love. But I don't think I really ever sought out and needed from the very deepest part of my soul God's love the way I did when I was going through that, everything. And I mean that in a way, like, it may sound bad, but I think that when you go through something, that's God's way of letting you realize you can't live without Him. So don't ever start thinking you can.
Well, you know, you mentioned something really interesting. A lot of us feel like we have a textbook answer, you know, God loves us, that's all we need. But when we experience it in our lives, we understand it at such a deeper level. It sounds like that's what you've experienced.
That's exactly what I went through. You know, I think God lets us go through things we don't understand and we don't necessarily agree with. If we were God, we wouldn't let us go through it.
Yeah.
But He sees the end-all result. You know, my husband always says something. He always says, you know, some people, you can tell them, don't do this, it's gonna hurt you. Some people, you can tell them till you're blue in the face, don't do this, it's gonna hurt you. And they're gonna have to do it and figure it out on their own to figure out that it's gonna hurt them.
That's wise.
Ugh. And he goes, you, my dear, are the one that has to figure it out on your own, try it out, and then you're like, oh, okay, you're right. I shouldn't have touched the pot on the kettle on the stove. It was hot, after all. I got some scars now to prove it. Un lugar celestial, just a little bit of heaven, sent from up above. Un lugar
Para más de Jaci, suscríbete a este canal.
where the presence of my Father holds me in His love. Un lugar celestial.